Hello everyone. The video I've prepared for you will cover the topic of exemplary teaching and closely examines the notion of threshold concepts described in Chapter 11 of the Taking Stock text. Written by Jan H. F. Meyer, the founding theoretician of the notion of threshold concepts, Meyer briefly outlines the theory in his chapter and proposes its application as a means or tool for effective teaching and learning across disciplines. In this video, I'll first introduce the theory by describing its main principles, provide an example of how the theory might be applied in practical situations, summarize its possible benefits and drawbacks, and finally I'll conclude with a set of questions for discussion. So what are threshold concepts? Meyer defines these as akin to a portal, opening up previously inaccessible ways of thinking about something. It represents a transformed way of understanding or interpreting or viewing something without which a learner cannot progress. As a consequence of comprehending a threshold concept, there may thus be a transformed internal view of subject matter, subject landscape, or even worldview. Meyer cites there is an increased understanding, interpretation, or ability of seeing something in a new way. Threshold concepts might then be viewed as ways of thinking about a wide range of phenomena that fall within the scope of a particular discipline or mode of thought. Threshold concepts are further identified as having certain qualities or characteristics, of which there are 5 main ones, but can vary depending on the discipline. These characteristics include the transformative, irreversible, integrative, bounded, and troublesome knowledge, among others. The transformative occurs when the learner's perceptions shift, leading to new understanding that then becomes a part of the learner, a part of how they see and how they feel. Meyer adds that once acquired, transformational understanding might also be discursive. The learner communicates in the language common within a specific discipline, language community, or community of practice. Integration, meanwhile, enables students to integrate aspects of the subject they believe to be unrelated, or it exposes a previously hidden interrelatedness of something. The benefits to teaching and learning mean educators have a framework from which they can design courses and curriculum, strategies, and approaches responding to learner challenges. These are especially effective for overloaded curriculums, such as those typical of the fields of economics or physics, for example, and where there is a lot of material to be covered in a short period of time. They work by assessing conceptual difficulty right in the moment as a student is experiencing them. A common example of how threshold concepts might work, and that I ran across more than once in my research, is the principle of temperature gradient. A trainee chef is asked to pour 2 separate cups of tea. In the first cup, the trainee adds milk to cool it down. In the second cup, the trainee is asked to wait a few minutes before pouring the milk. The trainee is then asked to reflect on which cup of tea will be cooler, and this to discover the relationship between heat transfer and temperature gradient. This reflective discovery, organized by the teacher, leads to a shift in understanding of the discipline and of the profession. Several issues related to the theory and its application have been raised. One lies in the learner's potential difficulty in understanding how threshold concepts work exactly, in which case students remain static in what is called a state of liminality, a transitional yet suspended state of learning. The danger here is that understanding is not authentic, so what might look like authentic learning is actually mere performance. Teachers then may be required to design specific learning activities to move students past this stage. Another drawback lies with teaching itself. In practical terms, threshold concepts, if they haven't already been developed for your discipline, would mean that you as an educator would have to do so. This raises the question as to whether educators have at their disposal the required resources or support to conduct these types of efforts. In the same vein, Meyer cautions that because a framework is contrary to the conveyor belt model of design, course design and delivery, with its focus on learning outcomes, helping students learn might be harder to do than good intentions allow. Or does it have to be? We can think here of universities hosting massive numbers of students using a linear curriculum, or of the tendency to overstuff the curriculum with content. This approach likely ignores individual learning preferences. For the discussion then, I'd invite you to reflect on these questions. What advantages do you see to threshold concepts, either as an educator or a learner? Is this a framework that works despite the real-world teaching constraints I mentioned earlier? And what conclusions do you draw? And how might you propose combining threshold concepts along with other learning theories to develop exemplary teaching? So that's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to our online discussion. Thanks again.